It is impossible to imagine the world ending on such a fine fall day. Yet the storm of Muslim horsemen continues to rage throughout Europe, leaving conquered cities and shattered armies stunned in its wake. The lightning-quick strikes of the Muslim horsemen break the city of Bordeaux and then Poitiers, leaving precious little of the Frankish kingdom to defend. Yet Charles Martel gathers the disheartened Frankish army for one last stand at the city of Tours. Arabic horses, bred for speed and beauty, begin to splash across the Vienne River. Martel's knights and swordsmen, trudging under the weight of iron mail, struggle to interpose themselves between the Muslims and the city of Tours. Carrion birds circle in the air, anticipating the savagery to come. The rest of Europe watches anxiously, for this is the climax of the Muslim invasion and the last stand of Christian Europe.
The Muslims are advancing slowly, but we will not have long before they are at the walls of Tours. Poitiers has fallen already. We have reached Poitiers. The Muslim baggage train is protected inside. If we can capture it, they will retreat back from whence they came. The Muslims have retreated from Frankish lands! We are victorious!
The soul of the Frankish army was its knights, but Charles Martel knew that his cavalry, undisciplined, buried under the weight of weapons and armor, could not match the swiftness of the Muslim riders. Therefore, he ordered the knights to dismount and join ranks with the Frankish swordsmen to form a tight shield wall. The Muslims had always conquered with swift offensiveness and were not equipped to counter the Franks' defensive strategy. The arrows of the Muslim archers bounced harmlessly off the heavy Frankish armor, and the light Muslim cavalry could not breach the human chain. Battered and bleeding, the invaders broke ranks and fled back to the Pyrenees and the protection of Spain. From Charles Martel's Frankish kingdom eventually grew the Holy Roman Empire, making him the founding father of both Germany and France. In the gloom, the longhouse feels empty, but it is filled with the odors of rust, tar, and animal fur, and the snoring of dogs. It is the man named Eric who speaks, smacking scarred fingers together for emphasis, the steam of his breath mingling with the wood smoke. He fills the men's heads with legends of exploration and raiding, of a sea that eats longboats, and an undiscovered country ripe for Viking occupation. He tells the Vikings that they can leave their frigid homeland and sail across the endless sea of worms to a new world brimming with wild grain, grapes, and tall trees. To the Vikings, he speaks of paradise, and of course the grizzled Norsemen are always eager for adventure. When he asks for volunteers, men slam their weapons on tables and shout his name in the cold air. Eric the Red smiles.
It has been a hard winter, and the wolves are hungry. We must protect our villages from their packs. To build enough longships for this journey, we'll need gold, and lots of it. There's plenty in the fishing villages of Britain for the taking. Hear that howl? That one's the king of the wolves. He can take down an army of our Norsemen. The British keep their gold in these markets. Burn all you can and carry the gold back to our ships. Legends have spoken of this place, the Sea of Worms. The waters here are alive and eager to chew through the hulls of our longships. We should sail clear of this place, even if it means crossing Greenland by foot. So this is the Isle of Greenland. We should be able to find food and wood here to replenish our fleet. To see the Sea of Worms. Look upon it and despair. The New World. I claim it in the name of Eric the Red. To establish our settlement here, we will need to construct a town center, a market, and 12 houses. Wild men live in these forests, calling themselves the Skraeling. They don't have steel like ours, but they're fierce and they have numbers. It will be a long and bloody winter. The name of Eric the Red will never be forgotten as the first Viking in the New World.
Much of the Viking history is recorded in oral accounts called sagas, passed down through generations. Two of the most famous sagas are reserved for the adventures of Eric the Red and his men, who crossed the mighty sea in tiny ships to forge a new Viking sovereignty. Vinland, as the New World was called, was not kind to the Vikings. Although they lack the iron weapons of the Norsemen, the native Skraeling were fierce warriors who fought relentlessly to defend their homeland against the Norse invaders. The vastness of the North Atlantic cut the Vikings in Newfoundland off from their homeland, and they suffered many long years while trying to establish their new colony. Mercenaries and Norman knights look dubiously at the ships that wobble in the black, fog-choked sea. What man is this Duke William to put so many horses on leaky transports? William ignores their questioning glances and stares across the channel in the direction of England. Edward the Confessor is dead, and now 3 men claim rulership of England. Harold the Saxon sits on the English throne, and even now hastens to fortify his shores against 2 invasions. Harald Hardrada, King of Denmark and Norway, sends Vikings from the north as William invades from the south. The outcome of this 3-way conflict is as murky as the fog that shrouds the English Channel. Harold the Saxon's housecarls are professional soldiers, not mercenaries. William's only chance is to use heavy cavalry. To do so, he must first get all of these horses onto these unreliable boats. The future of England is about to be decided.
The Saxons have the British Isles well fortified. We'll need to transport our knights across the channel and use them to defend our builders. Norman castles should hold back the Saxon tide, both here and on Britain. Harold the Saxon has taken to the seas. We can't let his navy control the English Channel, or we'll never succeed in our invasion.
William of Normandy, you and I have no quarrel. It's Harold the Saxon who's the enemy of us both. If you declare me an ally, I'll do likewise with thee.
You Viking scum! Forget how to fight this far inland!
William, old Harold the Saxon has smashed my forces at Stamford Bridge. My Vikings will keep fighting, but you'll have to come here and transport them across yourself.
Go home, young William. This island will remain Saxon. Come down off those horses and see how Huskos fight man to man!
Conqueror, King of England and Normandy.
Harold the Saxon's housecarls looked certain to defend the crown for him as they fought the Vikings to a bloody stalemate at Stamford Bridge. Despite his losses, Harold marched his exhausted troops south to meet William the Conqueror near Hastings. William's archers and pikemen were no match for Harold the Saxon's veteran housecarls. Harold even broke the charge of William's knights. William himself went down in the fray, and as rumors of his death spread, the Normans turned to flee. William was not dead, however, and he rallied his troops by throwing aside his helmet so they could see his clean-shaven face and know he was alive. William and his armored knights rode down the housecarls, breaking the Saxon force, and continued their ride all the way to London. William was crowned king on Christmas Day. Because his reign eventually ushered England into a position of unprecedented world leadership, the year 1066 became established as the most famous day in English history. Minarets of dust twist upwards as horse hooves strike the fractured earth. Thousands of Seljuk Turks stream across the Anatolian plateau to converge on the walled town of Manzikert, which was recently recaptured by the Byzantine army. The Byzantines are the heirs of Rome, and their armored cataphracts and legions of disciplined swordsmen can smash aside the light-armored Turkish horse archers, provided they can catch them. However, an unlikely turn of events has greatly improved the Turks' chances for victory. The Byzantine army is racked by treachery and deceit from within. One day, a band of mercenaries deserts the Byzantines. On another, the army's second-in-command leads a treacherous conspiracy against the commanding general. If the Turks can somehow turn the splintering factions against the Byzantine army, they may overcome a better equipped and better trained enemy.
Below us lie the many themes of the Byzantines. We should capture all we can before facing the brunt of the Byzantine army. Those cataphracts pack quite a punch. Better to fire and retreat than face them toe-to-toe.
Turks pouring out of the Zagros mountains! They'll spare no one!
We have captured Cappadocia. As long as their villages are safe, we should have all of the resources that we need. Basidia is now ours.
We surrender! Just spare our families!
The theme of Galatia shall submit to Turkish rule. We can capture this mine by destroying the towers protecting it. Then the villagers will produce gold for the Turks. Byzantine army is fortified atop this plateau. We must be patient until we have the troops we need to conquer it. Manzikert has fallen! The Byzantines will be forced to withdraw to Constantinople, and all of Anatolia shall belong to the Turks.
As long as the sun was in the sky, the Byzantine army could fight the Turks back towards their camp. When dusk settled over Anatolia, however, the Turks could harass the ponderous Byzantine cavalry as it withdrew to Manzikert. When they could stand no more of this torment, the Byzantine flanks collapsed into a full rout, and the Turkish horse archers pounced for a quick kill. The Battle of Manzikert was not lost due to the poor performance of soldiers or commanders, but through Byzantine treachery. Deceit from within the armies disrupted the chain of command, as factions feuding for control of the throne in Constantinople betrayed their armies at the front. A much weakened Byzantium was then forced to call the rest of the Christian West for help, leading to the Crusades. The Byzantine Empire lingered for another 4 centuries, but in only a shadow of its former glory. The rains come again until there is nothing left of road, wood, or field, nothing in the entire world but mud. The exhausted English soldiers hoist their longbows over their heads, trying to protect the precious yew wood from the water. The empty wagons can scarcely roll forward, even though all the supplies have long been eaten. Terrifying hoofbeats resound from the rear. The French knights have come. The English have been in a slow retreat ever since the debacle at Harfleur, where King Henry V's glorious siege dragged on and on, costing the lives of 3,000 Englishmen. Now, Henry has all but abandoned his dream of establishing his hereditary claim to the French crown. Like his men, he only wants to reach Calais and the ships that will return them home to England. On the road back to Calais, the French army overtakes Henry. Knowing that the English are fatigued, starving, and outnumbered 3 to 1, the French have no interest in negotiation. The English make their stand on a wooded hilltop. The archers plant stakes in the ground to offer some barrier against the deadly French cavalry. Henry's only hope is that his lightly armored infantry prove more nimble than the impetuous French knights, and that the range of his archers can even the odds before the French horses are upon them.
My king, the siege of Harfleur is lost. We should withdraw before our casualties are too grave. The French will undoubtedly harry our retreat. We must make haste to a transport, so that our King Henry will once again see beloved England. It is as I feared. This bridge has been destroyed. Boyen is known for its learning. Perhaps we can recover something from the university here. Those are the gates that protect Amiens. The town is known for its smithing. We could try to recover some of their handiwork from the blacksmith there. The nearby town of Frévent is quiet and peaceful. We should be able to rest here, but not for too long. We've recovered armor for our swordsmen, knights and archers, as well as fine blades and arrowheads. The castle of Agincourt lies down this road. We will likely face many French knights. The fighting will be fierce.
If we are marked to die, we are enow to do our country's loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor.
Trebuchet. If we could capture it, the castle of Agincourt will pose little danger. We'll see how these French knights stand up to English longbows.
Today is Saint Crispin's Day, and every year from now on, you will be able to show your scars and say that you were here with me on Saint Crispin's Day. He today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother.
Come down here in the mud, and you'll see how the French knights fight!
North along the road, men! North and then west to the docks! Excellent! The French will regret allowing this to fall into our hands. Quickly now, my king. Board and set sail for beloved England. England! A sweet sight! King Henry is almost home.
The Battle of Agincourt is remembered not because it was an inevitable triumph, but because it was an upset. Outnumbered English longbows were victorious over French knights only because the knights had to charge up a muddy hill through a dense forest. The English wore little armor and were able to catch the encumbered French in the middle of their retreat. A charge by Henry and his surviving cavalry pushed aside the beaten French and opened the road to the coast. Despite his victory, Henry did not follow through on his attack, but withdrew to England. The true winner of the battle was Burgundy, which was able to come to power in a vacuum emptied by both the English and the French. The steady splashing of oars of 200 ships striking the water drowns out all other sound. The most powerful fleet ever assembled by Don Juan of Austria and his allies in Venice sails under the burning light of dawn towards a final encounter with the Ottoman Turks. The Turkish army has greatly expanded its empire, adding North Africa and Mesopotamia to the Turkish holdings in Anatolia, but has finally been turned back by a staunch defense of Hungary. Undaunted, the Turks turn their attention to the Mediterranean, where they intend to break the Christian naval powers of Venice and Spain. Now, 200 rowed galleys and 6 heavy galleasses lumber into the Bay of Lepanto to meet the 270 galleys of the Turkish fleet. The ships draw up with scarcely 5 miles separating the distance between them. A storm of arrows darkens the sky, and the drone of splashing oars is finally drowned out by the thunder of cannon.
There's hundreds of Turkish ships out there. We don't have the numbers to go on the offensive, so we should just keep their galleons and transports at bay. Why did our brilliant leaders insist on building the Wonder so close to the shoreline? It is dangerous to sail too far into the jaws of the Turkish fleet. We're better off patrolling our own shores.
I do not think we would fare well under Turkish rule. If you tribute to us 800 gold, we will ally with you instead. Nah, it is prudent for us to join forces against the Turks. You may mine gold from our villages or islands, and we will tribute you what we can spare.
The Wonder is complete. Now, we just need to defend it.
The heavy Venetian galleasses broke through the Turkish lines and trampled over the smaller ships of the Turks. But there were too few of the galleasses to win the battle on their own. The Spanish and Venetians attempted to grapple and board the Turkish ships, where the superior experience and weapons of the Christian sailors could be brought to bear. As the day wore on, the Turkish juggernaut began to run out of strength. Scores of Turkish galleys were dashed on the rocks, and others sank to the bottom of the bay. Less than 50 Turkish ships survived the battle. Lepanto was not the climax of the conflict between the Christians and the Turks on the Mediterranean, but it was a turning point. The Turks had difficulty rebuilding their fleet back to its former size, while the Christians continued to update their fleets with the latest technological advancements, ensuring a decisive military advantage for further encounters on the high seas. The ships slide through a mirror-flat ocean stained red with spring seaweed. Columns of rock improbably draped with pine trees tower out of the mist. The men on the ships watch silently as the samurai prowl the deck above. They will make land near Kyoto, and their lord Hideyoshi will lead the siege of the city of 10,000 shrines. Within Kyoto, rebels hold prisoner Lord Nobunaga, the man who would unify Japan. The islands of Japan remain a patchwork of bickering samurai warlords, who still settle conflicts with ritualized duels. Nobunaga seeks to forge a single Japan, dragging the provincial samurai into the modern era. Like his master Nobunaga, Hideyoshi wins his battles by volleys of muskets, fully exploiting the firearms recently introduced by Portuguese sailors. Hideyoshi intends no bargaining. He will demand once for Nobunaga's release, then stormed the city.
Lord Nobunaga is in Kyoto. We must rescue him to restore his honor. The rebels in Kyoto have executed Lord Nobunaga. They will pay for this offense with their lives. Leave no castle standing. Prepare to disembark on enemy shores. We will send in saboteurs to open that wall. We have captured enemy bombards. Captured the enemy town center! This village will be causing us no more grief. Lord Hideyoshi has cast down another enemy. Soon all of Japan will be unified under a single leader, and we can be done with these civil wars forever.
Kyoto paid dearly for Nobunaga's death, and in the end, Hideyoshi was able to accomplish what his mentor could not. By 1590, Japan was a unified country. Great though it was, this accomplishment did not satisfy Hideyoshi, who then set about on an ambitious plan to conquer China and Korea. Japan was not free of conflict, as civil wars continued to rise and fall for many years. However, the Ieyasu family, former allies of Hideyoshi, continued to rule Japan as shoguns until the 19th century. The haze of spent gunpowder hangs over the gravel-strewn beach, confusing the seabirds that nest on the rocky outcroppings of Shinhai Bay. As soon as the winds of the Eastern Sea disrupt the cloud, the Japanese Navy will return, cannons blazing at the sea walls and at what remains of the Korean fleet. Although the army has so far managed to repel any of the samurai that have waded ashore, it is only a matter of time before the Japanese are victorious. The last hope for the Korean Navy is an innovative commander named Yi Shu-shin. Admiral Yi is constructing a secret weapon, a ship with iron armor that can withstand the Japanese cannon and a spiked hull to repel boarders. He calls these ships Kobuksan, or turtle ships. If Admiral Yi can ready his fleet of turtle ships in time, then the Koreans stand a chance of defeating the Japanese. On the other hand, if he is too late,
We cannot drive off the repeated attacks of these Japanese warships. We must seek aid from Admiral Yi Sun-shin. Rumor has it that he has been working on a secret weapon. With these turtle ships, we will send every Japanese ship to the bottom of the sea. We should build as many as we can. Our coast is now rid of Japanese marauders, but they could return in the future. We should sail to Japan and destroy all of the Japanese docks.
Admiral Yi, we can assist you in driving off the Japanese raiders, but you will have to transport us across the sea.
Is free once again.
the Japanese were unable to establish a base in either China or Korea. Therefore, all supplies and reinforcements had to come from the Japanese islands themselves. Once Admiral Yi destroyed the Japanese navy, the samurai armies were left isolated, and the invasion ended. Yu Shi-shin died in the battle, but the Japanese commander Hideyoshi died soon after, and with him the lust for Japanese conquest. The possibility of a Japanese empire in Eastern Asia in the 16th century died under the guns of slow but deadly armored Korean warships.